I always thought I knew what it meant to have it all until I realized I was only part of someone else's story. "Morning, sir," I said, knocking lightly before entering Adrian's office. Finally, Adrian's voice was smooth, calm, yet edged with that habitual impatience. "I've been waiting." "Did you review the Carrington files?" "Yes, and I noticed some discrepancies in the revenue projections for Q2, I replied, handing him the tablet. He scanned it without a word, then looked up, eyes briefly softening. "Good, you're the only one who notices these things." I nodded, though the compliment felt hollow. Being noticed wasn't the same as being valued. The door opened, and Elise glided in, all elegance and charm. "Adrian, darling," she said, voice honeyed, "we really should consider the Beaumont acquisition. It's strategic." I swallowed my irritation, hiding it behind a neutral smile. Elise's gaze flicked toward me, polite but calculating. "And you are?" I forced a polite chuckle. "I'm just assisting Mr. Blackwood with the financials." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Of course," she said, tilting her head. "You've been here long?" 5 years, I admitted, voice steady despite the slight burn in my chest. 5 years of loyalty, unnoticed. Adrian cleared his throat. "Elise, let's step into the conference room. I need to finalize details with the board." As they left, I lingered by the doorway. The staff moved around silently. Jennings, the secretary, filing documents with that automatic efficiency that made me feel like I was part of a machine, not a person. I watched them, realizing how invisible I'd become in this gilded cage. Later, while delivering some papers, I heard voices from the hall. Elise, whispering, clearly not expecting me to overhear. "He doesn't belong here. The real heir will take everything eventually." I froze. The words made no sense, but the venom in her tone made it clear. I was not the one Adrian intended to keep close. "Don't worry," Adrian's calm voice replied, almost soothing. "I'm aware. It's just a matter of timing." The word heir hit me like a punch to the gut. I stepped back, pretending to straighten the folders, heart pounding. Timing? Heir? What did that mean for me? By evening, I found myself alone in the study, staring at the leather-bound books lining the walls, imagining the conversations I'd just overheard. I tried to shake it off, telling myself I was imagining things, but my gut refused to lie. Something was off. Everything I thought was mine, attention, trust, respect, was conditional. The staff greeted me with smiles and nods, oblivious to my thoughts. "Did you see Elise at dinner?" one whispered, eyes wide. "She's intense," I nodded slowly. "Yes, she is." Back in my small quarters, I sat on the edge of the bed, hands wrapped around a lukewarm cup of coffee. I asked myself how I'd missed the signs, the subtle slights, the sideways glances, the conversations that didn't include me. I had been part of this world, yet outside it at the same time. And for the first time in years, I wondered if being noticed by Adrian at all was a blessing or a trap. I shouldn't have been wandering the West Wing, but curiosity has a way of ignoring rules. "Excuse me, sir," I said, peeking around the corner. Adrian and Elise were standing close together, voices low. "I told you," Elise whispered sharply. "He has no idea." "Don't let him." Adrian's voice was calm, almost cold. "I know. Timing is everything. Patience matters more than secrecy." The word heir jumped out at me again, twisting my stomach. I leaned back, pressing myself against the wall, pretending to adjust a picture frame. "You really think he suspects?" Elise asked, her tone laced with fake concern. "Not yet," Adrian replied. "But we need to control what he sees. I can't have loose ends. Loose ends." That's what I felt like. My chest tightened, but I forced myself to breathe normally, though my mind raced. Later, Adrian walked past me in the library. "You're here early," he said, eyebrows raised. "I wanted to review the contracts," I said, holding the papers a little too tightly. He smiled, faint but genuine. "Good initiative. Don't overdo it." I nodded, feeling that familiar mix of pride and frustration. His words meant recognition, yet also a reminder that I was still replaceable. A few minutes later, I overheard 2 staff members talking near the kitchen. "Did you hear about the letter?" one whispered. "It's for the true heir. Only Adrian and Elise know." My pulse thudded in my ears. True heir? Every nerve in me screamed that I was in danger of losing everything, even the invisible space I occupied in Adrian's world. "Be careful what you say," the other said. "He notices more than he lets on." I stayed quiet, pretending to sweep the hallway. My hands shook slightly, but I tried to keep my composure. When Adrian returned to the study, he motioned me inside. "Sit," I need your thoughts on these financial reports. I stepped in, heart still racing. He looked at me for a long moment. I rely on your insight, he said quietly, and I almost let myself believe it meant more than work. After he left, I noticed a small envelope tucked behind a stack of ledgers. The words, "To the true heir," were scrawled in familiar handwriting. I picked it up with trembling fingers. My mind spun. Was this a mistake? Was this meant for me, or was I completely irrelevant? Elise appeared at the doorway, her presence suddenly suffocating. Busy? She asked sweetly, though I could feel the tension radiating off her. Just reviewing, I said, my voice tight. She smiled faintly, eyes glinting with something I couldn't name. Good, stay focused. Don't let curiosity get the better of you. Curiosity had already won. I slid the envelope into my jacket pocket, feeling both fear and a strange thrill. This was bigger than I'd imagined. I left the study quietly, heart hammering, mind racing, and a single thought repeating itself. If this is about the true heir, then where do I stand? I had to know. I couldn't keep pretending that Elise's polished smile was harmless. Elise, I said softly in the hallway, pretending casual curiosity. Can I ask, why do you always seem distant around me? She turned, eyes widening like I'd startled a deer. I don't know what you mean, she said, voice light but sharp beneath the surface. I work here. I thought maybe I mattered more than nothing, I admitted, trying to mask the sting of insecurity. Her lips curved, but not in kindness. You matter to Adrian? She asked, tilting her head. Be careful what you think you know. I swallowed, sensing the danger in her tone. She stepped past me, deliberately close, a subtle warning. Later, I lingered near the study door, pretending to organize papers when I heard Adrian's voice inside. I can't, she doesn't understand, she oversteps. I understand perfectly, Elise replied, sharp and cold. And don't try to blame me, you've known what's at stake since the beginning. I know, Adrian's voice cracked in a way I'd never heard before. You don't see him the way I feel. It's complicated. Complicated. My chest tightened. The words were meant for her, but I couldn't ignore their echo in my heart. He cared? Elise laughed softly, a sound like ice breaking. Complicated? Adrian, you're letting emotions cloud judgment. He's expendable, you know it? Expendable. My hands gripped the papers tighter, nails pressing into my palms. My mind spun. Me expendable? 5 years of loyalty, every late night, every mistake I'd corrected, silently expendable. I can't just... Adrian's voice was low, strained. I want him more than he realizes. But family obligations? Family obligations? Elise's voice dripped venom. He's not yours to worry about. Don't let sentiment ruin everything. I stepped back, pretending I was adjusting a picture frame, but I couldn't breathe. The truth slammed into me like a cold wave. I'd been a placeholder, a convenience, a shadow. That night, at the charity gala, the realization became unbearable. I stood at the edge of the grand ballroom, hoping to avoid attention, but Elise had other plans. Oh, look who's here, she said loudly, letting the words float just within reach of everyone near. Our diligent assistant, always busy, always helpful, yet somehow so oblivious to the real world. Whispers spread immediately. I felt eyes on me, a mix of pity, amusement, and curiosity. My stomach churned. Adrian approached quickly, voice urgent. Ignore her. Don't listen. I can't, I whispered, more to myself than anyone else. The sting of betrayal, combined with the humiliation, was nearly unbearable. Elise leaned closer, smiling sweetly to the crowd. Some people think they're indispensable. Isn't that cute? I wanted to run, to vanish, to scream at Adrian for letting this happen, for letting me exist in this cruel gray area between recognition and invisibility. But I stayed, shoulders squared, mind racing, heart pounding, knowing that whatever I did next would define me. And somewhere in the chaos, I realized that Adrian's feelings, hidden, conflicted, and forbidden, were tangled with my own desperation. By the time the crowd had moved on, I knew one thing clearly. My life in this world, the one I thought was mine, was already slipping through my fingers. I didn't know it was possible to feel invisible in a room full of people, but I did. Standing by the grand piano at Adrian's estate, I watched Elise laugh with the other guests, her hand on Adrian's arm, while I felt like a shadow pressed against the wall. Later, Michael called. You sound off, he said the moment I picked up. I am off, I admitted, voice tight. I've been pushed aside. It's official now. I'm irrelevant in his world. There was a pause, then his familiar chuckle. Welcome to reality. You've been a ghost in a mansion full of phantoms. Admit it, you knew it was coming sooner or later. I thought I mattered, I said, the words cracking on the line. I thought 5 years of loyalty, long nights, correcting his mistakes quietly. It meant something. Michael sighed. It did, just not in the way you hoped. But that's not the end. That's the beginning. You realize that, right? I stared at the ceiling, remembering every subtle slight, every laugh Elise had thrown my way that wasn't meant for me. I don't know who I am without that, without him noticing me. I feel erased. You're not erased, you're awake, Michael said. And once you're awake, you get to decide what comes next. You can stay a ghost, or you can rewrite the story. I don't know how to rewrite a story when I've been living someone else's version my entire life, I muttered. Start small, he said. Focus on what you can control. You're smart. You're resourceful. And let's be honest, you've got dirt on everyone in that house. Use it, I laughed bitterly, the first time in hours. You make it sound easy. It won't be. But nothing worthwhile ever is. You wanted recognition. Now you have the freedom to take it, your way. I hung up, heart-pounding. Freedom, yes, but it tasted bitter. I walked the empty halls, thinking of all the moments I'd sacrificed for Adrian's approval. My back ached from standing at attention, my hands from constant calculations, my mind from endless worry. And for what? A smile, a fleeting glance, a single word of praise. In the quiet of the study, I sat on the edge of a leather chair, staring at the city skyline through the tall windows. I could still hear Elisa's laugh echoing in my mind. I could still feel Adrian's conflicted glances, moments of warmth mingled with restraint. I hated her. I hated being ignored. I hated myself for hoping it was different. But underneath all the hurt, a spark flickered. If I couldn't earn my place, I could take control in other ways. Revenge, perhaps, or simply rising above the mess they thought defined me. I whispered to myself, almost afraid of the sound. I will not be invisible. I refuse to be a shadow. The first step was clarity. The second step would be action. And somewhere in that resolve, I found a strange, dangerous excitement like holding a match near dry tinder. This was no longer about Adrian's approval. This was about me. My life, my rules, my story, and I was done waiting. I knew the first step was information. Without it, my revenge or my comeback would crumble before it even began. I dialed a number I hadn't used in years. Michael, I said when he answered, my voice tight but determined. You sound different, he replied cautiously. I'm serious this time. I need your help. I want to understand everything about Adrian's dealings, the estate, the people around him. I can't play by their rules anymore. A pause. Then, you finally decided to stop being a ghost. I have. I need allies. People who know the house, the staff, the finances, people I can trust. You're ambitious, he said. Fine. Start with who you can trust. Who knows you've been sidelined? Only a few, I admitted. Jennings, the secretary. She resents Elisa's interference. And Daniel, the driver he sees more than anyone realizes. Good, Michael said. We can work with that. But listen, don't let emotions cloud your judgment. This is chess, not war. I hung up, my fingers trembling. Chess. That's what it was. Moves, strategy, patience. I started reaching out carefully. Jennings met me after hours in the library. You shouldn't be here, she whispered. I need your insight, I said quickly, leaning close. I want to know who listens, who reports. What's really happening behind closed doors? She hesitated. You think I'll betray Elise? Not betray, I said, shaking my head, exposed truth. Help me survive in a world that's trying to erase me. Her eyes flicked around, then she nodded. I've seen things you wouldn't believe. Elise isn't as untouchable as she looks. Next, I found Daniel, the driver, near the garage. I need to know movements. Who goes where, when, with what intentions, I said. He laughed softly. You're serious? Fine. I've noticed patterns. Elise has meetings I wasn't supposed to know about. Adrian knows, but doesn't stop them. He's complicated, as always. Complicated isn't enough anymore, I muttered, more to myself than him. As the days passed, I gathered details, subtle cues, whispered confessions from staff who secretly resented Elisa's dominance. Every snippet was a piece of a puzzle I could use, yet Adrian lingered in my mind. I hated that he had that effect on me, even now. I caught myself imagining his expression if he knew I was plotting. imagining his conflicted eyes, the warmth hiding behind that cold mask. Michael's voice echoed in my thoughts. Don't let feelings ruin strategy. But how could I separate feelings from betrayal, from humiliation? Every move I made, every alliance I forged, carried the weight of past attachments. I wrestled with it constantly, questioning whether revenge was about him or about proving my own worth. One evening, I met a new contact, Lila, an old acquaintance who knew insider financials. You're playing a dangerous game, she said. I know, I admitted. But I'm not the same person who tolerated being invisible. I need control now, she smirked. Then let's start. I can give you the first dossier names, dates, irregularities. Careful with your choices. One misstep and it's over. I nodded, accepting the folder. The thrill of planning, the rush of empowerment, the mix of resentment and longing, it was intoxicating. I looked at the documents, imagining the moves I could make. Every conversation, every piece of information was a weapon. This wasn't just survival. This was me reclaiming my life. And I wasn't going to stop until the balance had shifted. Careful to avoid the surveillance cameras Adrian had installed. Every step felt like a gamble. Are you sure about this? Michael's voice came through the earpiece, tense. I've never been more sure, I whispered. Jennings confirmed Elisa's meeting is tonight. She's flaunting her control, but she's sloppy. Just don't get caught, he warned. I won't. I've been overlooked for years. Now I'm invisible by design. I slipped into a side office and waited. Minutes passed, then Elise entered with 2 associates I didn't recognize. We can't take risks, one of them said. If Blackwood finds out, it could ruin everything. Elise waved her hand dismissively. Adrian's not paying attention. He's too busy with the so-called Heir. We move quietly, execute perfectly, and nothing touches us. I pressed my back against the wall, heart pounding. The arrogance was intoxicating. They thought they were untouchable. You're underestimating him, the second associate said, eyes narrowing. And what about the assistant? He knows more than we think. Elisa's smile was cold. He's irrelevant. Always has been. Focus on the task or we lose everything. I stepped back carefully, taking mental notes. Every word was a weapon I could use later. When I returned to Michael, I couldn't hide the excitement. They're careless, overconfident. I have everything I need to start turning the tables. Good, he said. But don't let emotion blind you. You still have to stay smart. I nodded, but a pang of longing hit me. I remembered Adrian, his conflicted eyes, the warmth he had shown me once. Part of me still wished he'd notice me, even now. I shook my head. I can't think like that. Not yet. The next day, I confronted a minor obstacle, one of Elisa's friends. A junior associate trying to intercept my movements. You shouldn't be here, she snapped. I'm just passing through, I said lightly. Though I've noticed some inconsistencies in your reports. Care to clarify? Her eyes flickered, hesitation breaking her composure. I don't know what you mean. I smiled faintly. Check your documents again. Accuracy is everything in this house. She muttered something under her breath and left, and I felt a surge of triumph. Small victories like these reminded me I wasn't powerless. That evening, I reviewed the notes I had gathered. Each detail, each slip of Elise or her associates, was a step forward. The cracks in her perfect facade were widening, and I could see a path forming. If I was careful, I could exploit them. Yet, despite the thrill, doubt crept in. My heart tightened when I imagined Adrian walking past, unaware of my plans, or worse, noticing me and feeling betrayed. Was revenge worth the risk to my emotions? Michael's voice broke my thoughts. You okay? Yes, I said quickly. It's just seeing them like this, so careless. It's exhilarating. But I hate that part of me is enjoying it. Balance, he said. You need it. Keep your goals clear. Don't let feelings confuse the strategy. I stared at the documents spread before me, mind racing, heart aching, adrenaline surging. Every misstep of Elisa's associates, every tiny oversight, was fuel for the plan. I leaned back, exhaling slowly. For the first time in weeks, I felt control and hope. Even if it was fragile, even if it came at the cost of my own heart, it was mine. And that was enough to keep me moving forward. I asked quietly, glancing at Mara as we crouched behind the security door. Absolutely, she whispered, her voice firm, eyes steady. I've got the files. No one will know. I nodded, though unease gnawed at me. Something about the way she avoided my gaze made my stomach tighten. We moved carefully, shadows against the walls. Every step was measured, every breath quiet. Then my phone buzzed Michael. "Status?" His voice was low but tense. "Almost there," I replied. "Mara's got the documents. We just need to—" A click. The sound of the door unlocking before we reached it. "What the—" Mara froze. Voices, Adrian's, Elise's. My blood ran cold. "I told you she couldn't be trusted." Elise's voice sliced through the hall. "What?" I whispered, heart hammering. Adrian's voice, confused, edged with anger. "Mara, you promised." Mara's voice wavered. "I'm sorry, I had no choice." "She threatened me. Said if I didn't cooperate, you'd be exposed first." Betrayal. The word exploded in my mind. Every ally I'd counted on had suddenly shifted. My chest tightened, anger and disbelief mixing into a bitter swirl. Michael's voice crackled again. "Are you okay?" "No," I said, teeth gritted. "Mara sold me out. Keep calm. You're still alive, still in play. But reassess everyone. Trust no one until you know where you stand." I ended the call, watching Mara's pale face. "How could you?" I demanded. "I didn't have a choice," she cried. "You don't understand," she said. "Don't," I interrupted, voice sharp. "I trusted you. Everything we planned, everything we worked for gone. You don't just explain betrayal, you feel it." She flinched. I'm sorry. I thought I was protecting you. I didn't know what else to do." "Protect me?" I laughed bitterly, the sound hollow. "You handed me to them." I stepped back, letting the anger settle into something colder, sharper. My plan wasn't ruined. Not yet. But the rules had changed. Everyone was a potential enemy, including the ones I had called friends. That night, I retraced my steps through the documents Mara had delivered. Every line I had studied, every observation I had made, they could be used against me now. I realized how precarious my position was, how thin the line between control and destruction had become. Michael's words echoed in my mind, strategy first. Emotion second. I took a deep breath. My pulse slowed, but the determination hardened. I couldn't stop. Not now. Not ever. I thought of Elise, smug and untouchable in her flawless world. I thought of Adrian, conflicted, careless, and still oblivious to the storm I was preparing. I whispered to myself, voice firm, "If betrayal is their weapon, then I'll sharpen mine. I will not falter. I will not be discarded again." The next morning, I watched Mara leave, head bowed, guilt written all over her face. I didn't stop her. I didn't forgive her. But I knew one thing clearly. The only way forward was direct confrontation. Adrian and Elise. Both. Everything else was irrelevant. Every ally, every small advantage, every calculated risk led to that inevitable point. I would confront them. I would reclaim what had been stolen, not just my position, but my dignity, my voice, my life. And when that moment came, I would no longer be invisible. "Why did you do it?" I demanded, voice tight. "Why treat me like I was nothing?" Elise tilted her head, that polished smile slipping into something sharper. "Nothing? You're dramatic. You always thought you mattered more than you did." "Dramatic?" I echoed, anger rising. "I dedicated years, fixed mistakes you didn't even notice, and you, both of you, treated me like I was disposable." Adrian stepped forward, his gaze conflicted. I never wanted it to hurt you. You have to understand, my world, it's complicated. Family obligations, expectations." "Elise, don't!" I cut him off. "You've made excuses for years." And Elise, I turned to her, fury burning. "You manipulated everyone. Every step, every smile, every word calculated, and you thought I wouldn't notice?" Her eyes flickered with something I hadn't expected, uncertainty. "You were always too naive. You saw what you wanted, not what was real." "I saw enough," I said, chest tight, voice low. "Enough to know betrayal when I felt it. Enough to know that I deserve better than being invisible in my own life." Adrian's hands clenched. Don't!" I stepped closer, gaze locked on his. "You cared, didn't you?" "At least a little. That's why this hurts more than anything. Not because I was discarded, but because I believed you believed in us, in the bond we had." His eyes softened, and I saw it conflicted emotions, regret, the warmth I'd secretly hoped for all along. I did care, more than I knew how to say. More than I should have allowed myself to show. I swallowed the lump in my throat. The admission should have softened me, but anger and hurt still roared louder. And you? I said, turning back to Elise. Did you ever feel anything beyond control, or was this all a game? Her smile faltered, eyes narrowing. You think life is fair? You think feelings protect anyone? I did what I had to do. I shook my head. You had a choice, and you chose to hurt me. Both of you. Silence fell. The tension was thick, heavy. Every unspoken word, every glance, every pause screamed of truths revealed too late. I felt the weight of years, the humiliation, the invisible suffering, all converge in that moment. And yet beneath it, a strange clarity emerged. I could exact revenge, humiliate them, expose everything. Or I could walk away, reclaim my life on my terms, free of their shadows. I'm done, I said finally, voice firm. Done being a pawn. Done hoping for recognition from people who couldn't see me. I'll take what I deserve on my own terms. Adrian's face fell, a flicker of pain crossing his features. I interrupted, shaking my head. No more excuses, no more words. I'm leaving this world behind. Both of you. Elise's eyes blazed with fury, lips tightening, but she said nothing. I turned toward the door, each step steady, resolute. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. For the first time in years, I felt a strange mix of freedom and heartbreak. The confrontation had revealed everything: truths, regrets, feelings, but also my own power to decide what comes next. And I knew this was only the beginning of my life, reclaimed and unstoppable. I watched from a distance, a cup of coffee in hand, as the world around Elise began to unravel in ways she couldn't control. You're telling me the investors pulled out? One of her associates exclaimed, voice sharp with panic. Yes, Elise snapped, trying to maintain composure, though her hands trembled. But we can salvage the deal, just stay calm. Calm? The other scoffed. We're already losing millions. This was supposed to be flawless. I leaned against the balcony railing, silent, absorbing every word. A week later, Adrian called me. I've been dealing with the fallout, he admitted, voice heavy. Elise, she overestimated herself. I underestimated how much she could damage her own position. Sounds like consequences catching up, I said carefully, careful not to let my tone sound triumphant. He sighed. Now I feel the cost in ways I never imagined. I nodded, though he couldn't see me. You're learning, I said softly. Sometimes the consequences teach more than warnings ever could. Later, Elise stormed into a board meeting, red-faced and trembling, confronting yet another colleague. You misled me, she shouted. I trusted you, and now everything's falling apart. I followed the plan, one replied calmly. You overreached. Blame yourself. Her gaze swept the room, realizing alliances had shifted. For the first time, she had no control. I watched quietly from my office window, a strange sense of calm settling over me. That evening, I met Michael at the cafe. She's imploding, he said, voice low but amused. Didn't expect her to survive this long without mistakes. I'm not celebrating, I said. There's a lesson in all this: power isn't in destroying others. It's in controlling yourself, your decisions, your focus. He nodded slowly. You're no longer reactive, waiting for the world to define you. You're defining yourself. I looked out the window at the city lights. I had witnessed justice unfold in its own rhythm. Adrian's calls became fewer, shorter, but when they came, they carried weight. You've changed, he admitted one night. Stronger, more aware. I see now what I couldn't before. You always could have chosen differently, I said, my voice even. But lessons arrive when they do. I'm just moving forward. Even Mara, the ally who betrayed me, had retreated, consumed by guilt. I didn't need to intervene. The satisfaction wasn't in triumph over them. Watching Elise stumble, Adrian wrestle with regret, and Mara retreat, I realized the true power wasn't revenge. It was the control over me. I sipped my coffee slowly, letting the warmth settle into my hands. For the first time in a long time, I felt whole. And the world continued as it always does. The wind tugged at my hair, but I barely noticed. My thoughts were a storm I couldn't quiet. Are you really considering going back? Michael's voice came through the phone, cautious but probing. I don't know, I admitted, gripping the railing. Part of me wants closure. Part of me wants him to notice me again, to see I'm no longer invisible. You've been invisible for years, he said softly. And yet, look at how far you've come. You don't need Adrian to define you anymore. I know, I said, voice barely audible. But it's not just about him. It's about everything I sacrificed. Every late night, every correction, every time I swallowed my pride. Do I reclaim it? Or do I walk away, finally free? Michael's pause was long, thoughtful. Freedom isn't found in someone else's world. It's built from the choices you make for yourself. The power isn't in returning, it's in deciding. I let the words sink in, staring at the tiny lights flickering in office windows below. He was right. Every step I had taken since being cast aside had been mine alone. Every strategy, every alliance, every small victory had been proof of my own strength. I thought I wanted him, I whispered. But maybe what I wanted was validation, recognition, not love, not him. That's growth, Michael said. You're seeing the difference. Now the question is what you'll do with it. I glanced at the envelope in my pocket, the one with documents I'd gathered, notes I'd compiled, proof of Elise's manipulations, the truth Adrian had kept from me. I could use it to reclaim my place, to expose, to dominate. Or I could let it go, walk away with my dignity, unchained from the shadows of their world. I clenched my fists, the wind biting at my skin. I pictured Adrian's face, conflicted, warm, flawed. I pictured Elise, fragile yet manipulative, crumbling under her own mistakes. And I pictured myself no longer waiting, no longer afraid, finally aware of my own power. I think I know what I need to do, I said slowly, feeling the weight lift slightly. I don't need to fight for a place in their lives. I need to create my own. That's it, Michael said, pride in his voice. That's the turning point. The rest is yours to build. I opened the envelope, leafing through the documents one last time. Each sheet represented temptation, opportunity, the power to influence, but I dropped them into the trash without hesitation. It felt liberating. The symbolic act sent a shiver down my spine. I wasn't bound by their world. I wasn't defined by Adrian's approval or Elise's manipulations. I was free. The wind felt warmer, lighter. My heartbeat slowed. For the first time, I didn't feel fear, longing, or doubt. I felt control, purpose, clarity. I'm done chasing shadows, I whispered to the night. I'm done seeking validation from those who never saw me. This is my life. Michael chuckled softly through the phone. Then go live it. Don't look back. You're unstoppable. I hung up and gazed at the horizon. The city stretched endlessly before me, full of possibilities I'd never dared to imagine. And for the first time in years, I felt whole, empowered, and ready to step forward. Whatever came next, I knew I would face it on my own terms. And that was enough. I stood in the small office I'd rented, sunlight spilling through the windows, dust motes floating lazily. It wasn't luxurious, but it was mine. Everything looks ready, my assistant said, arranging files on the desk. Perfect, I replied, trying to mask the flutter of nerves in my chest. We start tomorrow. Big presentation. You'll do fine, she said with a smile. You always do. I nodded, letting the words sink in. I'd come far from those long nights at Adrian's estate, invisible, overlooked, bending to someone else's rules. Now I set the pace, made the decisions, controlled my life. Later, I called Michael. It's happening, I said, excitement and anxiety tangled in my voice. I know, he replied. You've earned this. Finally, it's all yours, I hesitated. I still think about them sometimes. Adrian, Elise, it's strange. I don't miss being invisible, but I miss the person I thought I could have been in their world. You've grown, Michael said gently. You don't need their approval anymore. But feeling those echoes? That's natural. It shows you've lived, not just survived. I laughed softly, a bitter undertone in the sound. Survived, yeah, and I've learned the cost of trust. How easily it can be broken. How dangerous hope can be when placed in the wrong hands. Exactly, he said. But now you choose your own path. That's power. The next day, I walked through the city streets, taking it all in. Shops, cafes, the hum of life continuing without me, and yet somehow I was part of it in a new way. I passed a small art gallery and paused. A young woman arranged canvases, struggling with a heavy frame. Here, let me help, I offered, stepping forward. Thanks, she said, surprise flickering across her face. I'm Lena, you're new here? Yes, I replied. Just starting fresh, and you? She smiled, adjusting the frame. Same, opening a small gallery, trying to make it work. We laughed softly together, sharing the brief connection of kindred spirits navigating uncertain futures. That evening, I returned to the office, reflecting. Independence felt strange at first. Empowering, yes, but lonely in moments. I remembered Adrian's conflicted eyes, Elise's calculating smile, Mara's betrayal. The memories lingered, ghosts I couldn't erase, but I could acknowledge. "Are you okay?" Michael asked when I called. "I am," I said finally. Stronger than before, but aware. I'll carry the lessons with me. Every scar, every betrayal, it all shapes who I am now. "And who you'll become," he said. I closed my eyes, letting a calm determination settle in. Hope mingled with caution, excitement tempered by experience. I didn't need anyone's validation. I only needed myself, and that was enough. Tomorrow, new challenges awaited. Opportunities I hadn't dared to dream of before. Romantic possibilities, professional success, a life I had fought for and claimed with my own hands. I whispered to myself, voice steady, unwavering, "I am free. I am whole, and I am ready." The city hummed around me, indifferent, yet full of possibilities. And for the first time, I felt the thrill of a life fully, wholly my own. I sat on the balcony of my modest apartment, night settling over the city. The lights shimmered like distant stars. And for a moment, the chaos of the past seemed far away. "Do you ever think about them?" Michael's voice came through the phone, gentle. "Every day," I admitted, my fingers tracing the railing. Adrian, Elise, Mara. I replay moments, words, choices. Wondering what I missed, what I could have done differently. "You can't change the past," he said softly. "But you can honor it, learn from it. Let it shape you, not define you." I nodded, though he couldn't see me. I thought revenge would be satisfying, complete. I thought seeing them falter would heal the wounds, and it did, in a way, but the real lesson, the real change came from within me. There was silence for a moment, comfortable yet heavy. "Have you forgiven them?" he asked. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Forgiveness maybe someday, but not yet. I don't need to forgive to move forward. I just need to accept what happened, acknowledge the pain, and decide what I want next." "You've grown," Michael said. "From the person who followed, who waited for approval, to someone who chooses. That's real power." I chuckled softly, a bittersweet sound. Power, I never understood it when I thought it meant control over others. Now I see it's control over myself, my reactions, my decisions. I'm no longer a castaway drifting in their world. I'm anchored in mine. A memory surfaced, Adrian's conflicted eyes the night I walked away, Elise's smile when she thought she'd won, Mara's guilt-laden apologies. Each moment a scar, a lesson, a reminder of how fragile trust can be. "And love?" Michael asked cautiously. "Do you still feel it, or?" "I feel it differently now," I said. Not the longing or the dependency I once carried, but understanding. Love doesn't require approval, it doesn't demand sacrifice of self. I can care, even remember, without losing myself in the process. The city hummed below me, indifferent yet alive. I sipped my tea, letting warmth seep into my hands and chest. "I've rebuilt myself," I said quietly, almost to no one. Bit by bit, choice by choice. I've seen betrayal, heartbreak, and near ruin. I've tasted power, revenge, satisfaction, and loss. And through it all I survived. Thrived, even. "That's resilience," Michael said. "You've turned every setback into a step forward." I smiled, looking out at the horizon. Resilience, yes. Independence, yes. But also awareness of my worth, my strength, my voice. It isn't defined by wealth, love, or recognition from anyone else. It never was, it was in me all along. "Then what now?" he asked. I exhaled slowly. "Now I live. I embrace uncertainty. Opportunities, people, possibilities, they come, but I choose how I meet them. I'm cautious, yes, but open, and that's enough." "Enough," he repeated. "More than enough," I whispered, the night carrying the words. I set the phone down, letting the city's quiet fill the space. And for the first time I felt complete, not unscarred, not unbroken, but whole. The past would always linger. Some questions would remain unanswered. But I had discovered the most important truth. My value, my life, my power, they were mine, and mine alone. And that, finally, was enough.